Logic, it's good to meet you, man.
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
How's it going? Where are you, Utah?
Yeah, I'm in Utah.
Yeah, sweet. Well, congratulations on the new creation.
Thank you so much. So wait, there's like hella people watching right now?
There's hella people watching right now.
That's crazy. Okay, cool. So
Um, yeah, man. Let me just introduce you real quick. So, I mean, I've been listening to Logic for a long time, and the reason I was playing that song "Fade Away" is, Logic. I just finished his memoir, and for just had a difficult childhood, and sort of came up from circumstances where most people don't end up in a position where Logic is right now. Started off doing mixtapes, started off posting free stuff on the internet. Then around 2015, he said, you know what, I'm not just a rapper, I'm a full-on creative. Came out with an album called The Incredible True Story, and really started to share who he was beyond just rap. A storyteller, an author. He's written 2 books. This was his second one. He wrote a novel before, and now he's working on a screenplay. So Logic, welcome. Got tons of questions, and then we will crowdsource the good ones as well.
cool. Thanks for making me sound cool. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here. And can I cuss?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, fuck yeah, let's do it.
All right, man. You got to tell me about Tanner Colby. How did Tanner help you write this book?
Well, he didn't really help me write it. I wrote it. He helped me organize it. That's the thing that was really, really amazing. He helped me take what, I had written and put it all in kind of a chronological order. So it's like we would have conversations and we'd be talking, and I would go through and write the stories out and do it kind of in a, it was weird. It's like we'd be having conversations that would spark, okay, I want to write this, and then I want to write this. And those conversations, I'd be 7, and then I'd be 27, and then I'd be 14, and then I'd be 30, and then I'd be, and for me, I think it was just a little weird trying to, I never wanted to, I love writing, right? So I love writing fiction. I love writing screenplays, things like that. But writing your own life story, it's like, how do you not it just seems kind of egotistical. So I thought it would be really cool bringing in somebody that I could write things, and then they could help me kind of edit it and just put it together and make it all make sense. I don't know how the book would even begin. I don't even know if it was necessarily originally going to be about the childhood, really, but then it just became so much of that. So he was just an excellent collaborator in the sense of helping me fulfill my vision, and maybe even giving me some vision that I didn't necessarily have when going into a memoir.
Yeah. So basically, in Rite of Passage, where the course that everyone's here who's a part of, we got 3 principles: write from abundance, write from conversation, and write in public. And I want to sort of focus on writing from conversation. It's cool because you actually embody all 3 in different ways. And so we'll get into that. But you know what is hard to do, that I want to hear how you got this stuff out, is you talked about some difficult stuff. And I think that when we have traumatic moments in life, our brain sort of puts up a gate where it gets hard to talk about those things. So how did you guys use conversation and build a relationship where you could uncover some really real shit from your life?
It's funny. I was kind of the one who just brought everything up. You know what I mean? He, I think, helped me dig up deeper memories, and I don't mean like negative or traumatic shit. Like I can never forget that. It was more so along the lines of like details. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I would either write a chapter or record it. We kind of do like an interview and situate everything and how it was done, and then he would then ask me later, like, okay, you remember that story that you wrote or you told me about XYZ, blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh, what time of day was it? Or do you remember what the weather was like? Or all these things. So he was actually like bringing out kind of the surroundings. He helped me really paint the picture of the world, like you've got VR goggles on and you can really see it. And so I think that was pretty special.
So for you, moving into music, like when you're writing lyrics, do you start with rhymes, then work back? Like how do most of your songs come together?
I do it both ways. So like, it's funny. I literally just wrote a song right now. You want to hear it? It's so bad. Listen. I'll give you like, so like literally like I sound like shit, but I just did this as an idea. I picked up my guitar. Hopefully I don't delete it. I picked up my guitar and then I added some drums and it's all just live. Like that right there is a very shit demo that I literally just did on my iPhone notes. And I set up a Bose portable sound dock hooked up to my MacBook, played dope hip hop drums that I just like put together, and then literally played the guitar live while I sang it just to get the idea out. Then after this podcast, my one of my best friends, one of my engineers, and an amazing musician, Kyle or Post, who's produced a lot of stuff for me, notably the song "Everybody." He killed that. He was like 17 when he did that. Anyway, he's gonna come over here and play that a lot better than I can play it. And then I'll do it again. So with that, it was the chords. So a lot of the time it's just instrumentation. You know, if I hear six, like gives me a fire beat, you know, or I hear a sample and it just inspires me to want to make the beat first and then write the raps. But then there's plenty of times when I'm inspired by lines or ideas of words and how to put things together, excuse me. So for me, it's both ways. It's very biracial.
It's really interesting how something you just said, you're like, it's so shitty, but you're excited about it. So talk about the it's so shitty, I'm going to throw this away versus it's so shitty, but I feel like I'm on one here. I'm going to go follow that.
Excitement. Like, it's like, and when I say it's shitty, it's just like, here's a recording of me blasting drums from a mini PA system while playing a guitar out of an amp while singing very bad because I'm doing all three at the same time. Like, that's what I mean by like, it's just an idea. But I think that's what makes stuff great. And if you, so yeah, what a great question. I see the end of the road. So it's like, if I listen to that, I'm like, what? Like, I'm not even really singing on key like that. Like, it's not even like, but it's not about that. It's like, I know when I step to the mic, I'm not going to be doing this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to be able to just focus on the production for, you know, a moment or an hour or two or days or whatever. And then I'll focus on the singing and I'll put everything in the singing. And then I want to put some raps on that too, because even though I'm singing and it's kind of pretty and slight tame Impala-y, just kind of like, you know, where it's like a vibe. I want to put raps on it. So I see the end of the road there. And then I think when you don't really see the end of the road, yeah, it's weird. But here's another thing is those lyrics, I wrote those lyrics a year ago and I haven't even written them down. I just put them in my head. Hey, what if I said that I needed you, which is funny because it's a call in response to another song that I wrote, which isn't out. And it says, hey, what if I said that I'm over you? Yes, I'm over you. And so that was, hey, what if I said that I'm over you is actually a song about anxiety. Like, I'm over this shit. You know what I mean? But anxiety will always be with me. So in a way, it's almost like I need it. So then I'm like, okay, what if I write this song where it sounds like I'm talking about a girl, you know, or in a way where anybody can relate to it? Because it's just, I mean, who hasn't been in loved or crushed or whatever the case may be. But then even then it doesn't even necessarily have to be about that. It could be about addiction, it could be about drugs, it could be about things that you want in your life, aspirations, goals, all these things. So whenever I write lyrics, I always go, unless I'm like, yeah, my dad smoked crack and it's like a very like me kind of story, I try to make it as relatable as possible so people can sing it in the shower.
Right. Well, what's interesting is there's a certain relatability of being explicit and direct where somebody can see it. And there's another kind of relatability of being sort of abstract and vague, like I'm over you, but that can apply to women, it can apply to anxiety. How do you think about the tension between the sort of universality of directness, like people sometimes say the most personal is the most universal, or the universality of abstraction that then people can layer on their own meaning to it?
Dude, thanks for doing a good job right now. I can't tell you. Sometimes
Dude,
I sit down
I've been
people...
obsessed with your work for the last 4 weeks, and I've just been going crazy. I'm so excited for this, man.
Okay, so great question. I think it does. It works both ways. I've got a record, so I'm working on this album right now that I haven't announced, and it's like a wild ride, and I don't want to get too into it, but it's a concept album. And it's It's crazy. Anyway, so there's songs. I have a song on it called Village Slum. And I forget the lyrics. It opens up with like, I've been trying to drink less because I feel like when I drink, I'm at my best. Not a care in the world, no stress. What is it? 7 days a week, I always get the job done. But whenever I come home, I'm always there for my wife and my son. But whenever I come home, I like to pour one, more like two, but occasionally three, and it scares me. Not because I have a problem. I'm the type of person, if there's issues, then I'm going to solve them. It's more like seeing how this shit has destroyed life. And so it then goes into a further song about me growing up in AA, right? So both of my parents are addicts, drug addicts, alcoholics, and I was scared shitless. Like I didn't even really touch alcohol till I was about 25 years old because of that, where other people in my family and other friends and people that I've known have gone down that path very young. So it's kind of me retelling where I was as a kid being in these AA meetings and how in many ways when I do drink, I love a scotch. I love a fine scotchy scotch. I love scotch. It's the shit. And I enjoy it because I have a crazy mind. And it for sure is a form of self-medication, but not in a way where I'm waking up every day hungover and I'm not getting shit done. I'd like to think that I do it very responsibly at 31. And it's because of the program. When I drink, I almost feel survivor's guilt, which is actually a lyric in the song. I say all this to say, sorry, I know it's very long-winded. I apologize. But I say all this to say that, like, if it wasn't for AA, I wouldn't be able to drink because I saw these people and how it destroyed their lives and how people can't just have just one or two. And I never wanted that to be me. So in many ways, I really appreciate that. So what I'm saying is that is a very direct, blunt me. Logic, Bobby, whatever, grew up in AA meetings and my parents were addicts. I think there's a fuck ton of people out there who are going to be like, yo, I relate to that. I've been there. I know what that's like. That's crazy. And then there's going to be a lot of people who are like, I've never done anything like that. I've never been there. You know, I had a great life, whatever the case may be, but they could still be affected by it and go, wow, this happens. This is going on in the world. And then there's the other side, trying to think because the most, what we could say like non-direct lyrics that I have are actually more so in the music that I've been making now, which is a little more alternative, still rap, still always rap, love rap, but still a little more alternative. Like I said, hey, what if I said that I needed you? Yes, I needed you or whatever. And it seems simple, but it could be so many different things. And I think they're both equally beautiful because depending on how the person perceives it, they could think that they're totally right and be like, oh yeah, man, he was talking about this and XYZ and this is what he meant. And I'm over here like, nah, that's not what I meant. But if it helps you out, motherfucker, like it's all good. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. I want to throw a chat or a quote from your book in the chat. And I want you to help me sort of square a paradox. Like I would say you are quite original in terms of how different you are from the other people in hip hop. But the other thing is you say, talking about your music, most of it was me learning by doing. It was me doing impressions of Kanye and Kendrick and Cole and Wu-Tang. And you end this by saying, I was like an X-Men character. I was Mystique. I could do anything, become anyone. How does it make sense that by imitating others, you can become original and unique?
I really like that you say that because I feel that, dog. Like hip hop is a crazy place, a beautiful place built on positive messages and so much of that. But a lot of mainstream hip hop has been glorified with shit that we know, violence, sex. I got bitches and hoes and boats and all that. And yeah, I feel like I've always, steered more towards the Nas, Rakim's, Mos Def, Wu-Tang Clan, Tribe Called Quest, like the hip hop people that are saying something. It's funny, I didn't tell anybody this, but I finally, for the first time, got in touch with Q-Tip from Tribe Called Quest like 2 weeks ago. And he told me, he was like, it's you, it's Kendrick, it's Cole. He's like, y'all are really rapping and saying something. And that meant so much to me. He was like, you took the baton, bro. And I'm like, damn, like this is my idol. It's like your dad telling you he's proud of you. God, I wish I had that. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, so for me, I think imitating all those people was more stylistically, right? So I think it's really funny. Hip hop is a genre that's like, yo, don't be jocking my style, don't be jocking my style. But yet so many people sound the same. So it's like you have trap music, you could have Future and Drake and all these different people, and they're doing very similar flows, very similar this, that. But I think image is a big part of that. So it's like, even if we're kind of rapping similarly, this is your identity and this is my identity, however you identify. And for me, I think the reason that, I guess, the originality aspect of myself as a musician comes from just being a fucking nerd. Like, I like sci-fi, I like anime, and I was tortured for it. So I come in the game, right? We all know the meme, most of us probably do, biracial Bob, like, black and white. So it's like, I don't really fit in, I'm not, this enough or that enough or whatever enough. So when I was like rapping about Star Wars and shit, people were like, yo, this is whack, like, you don't belong here, blah, blah, blah. Now, this is what I think is really funny. So I've shot guns, I've cooked crack. I'm like the quintessential underdog for making it in rap. I came from poverty, violence, all this crazy shit, bypassed it, didn't want to glorify that, didn't want that to be a representation of me or just hip hop in general. It was like, yo, I'm different, this is who I am. So then when I came in the game doing that, people were like, oh, like, you're not one of us. Like, you don't belong. Like, he's a nerd. He's whack. He's this, he's that. But I was being myself. Now, if I hadn't been myself and I came in the game talking about, yeah, I be fucking hoes and boats and bitches and blah, all this bullshit that I don't necessarily agree with, or glorifying things like drugs and selling drugs and being in the hood and like all this other stuff, well, then people might not even necessarily believe it. Or if they did and I was accepted, wouldn't it be crazy that I would be accepted for someone that I actually wasn't? So I think being myself is what helps with originality. Damn, I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry.
It's an interview. The point's for you to talk. Don't worry about it. But, I've been thinking, just one of the things that came to mind as you were saying all that is this idea of, I guess, what I could call far analogies or far inspiration. That's probably better. And the thing is, I think that when you pull inspiration from people who are a long way away. I mean, you talk about Mac Miller and Wiz Khalifa, but you also talk about Kill Bill. You talk about the story, the fighting, the action, the dialogue, the soundtrack, all those things. That's all the way over here, and then you can pull that in. And I think maybe that's sort of an answer, that because it's so far, it can be unoriginal but very original, kind of have both of those at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, you just said it. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it's funny. I think everything is imitation. There's nothing new under the sun. I have a record that I wrote on this new album called Clones 3. And it's basically about how, like, there is no originality. Like, everybody was inspired by this person or that person. Or it's just, and that's okay. I don't understand why we as human beings are always trying to do this thing where it's like, everything, no, I'm original. I mean, even in the art world and just, it's just like, come on, bro. Like, don't get me wrong. There's some stuff that you see where it's like, wow, I've never really seen anything like this before. But yet, in many ways, if you look and, do justice, like, you could find something like that, or ask the artist and say, what inspired this, or the writer, or the whatever. I mean, there's a bunch of writers who, I don't know, like to read Dickens and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And it may have inspired their, the way that they go about formulating their words on the page. So I don't know why people were always so weird. That's why I was like, I don't give a shit. Like, even when it came to contemporary musicians, I always showed love. I was like, Kendrick is dope and J. Cole is dope and so-and-so's dope. And I've listened to Nas, and it's like, yeah, when I listened to Kendrick Lamar do like a simile that I had never heard of when I was, in 2011, I was like, wow, I want to do that and try to do it better. Or not like it's a competition. I mean, it is for some, but I want to do that, and I want to make it my own, or do, like, why wouldn't you do that? What am I just going to do? A hip, a hop, a hippo to the hopper, don't stop forever. And that's just the way we rap. Like, no.
So this actually inspires a question. So I like hip hop. I don't love hip hop. How, if you and I were to sit next to each other, how do you listen to hip hop differently from me? Like, what is going through your head in terms of your process of consumption that is fueling your process of creation?
Wow. I don't listen to rap. The funny thing is I spent so much of my life working on music. So I'll answer your question, but like hip hop is my everything, right? Or at least it was in a way. Now my everything is my son. My everything is my well-being, my health, my happiness, my wife. Like I've realized that, you know, and before I was just kind of like so focused on making it that I wasn't present, and I didn't really care about, I didn't care about myself, my health, my this, my that. I just wanted to be as good as so and so or better than so and so. And it was this like, I'm telling you, the competition mentality, like I don't like that. I want everybody to win. Y'all do whatever the hell you want to do. I'm just going to be over here strumming a guitar and rapping and like that's first and foremost I think the most important part of where I'm at mentally now. So when I do listen to hip hop, it's usually shit I've heard a million times, Wu-Tang Forever and Midnight Marauders and all this, because they're my classics that I love, because I'm listening to Mac DeMarco and Warpaint and Toro y Moi and like all these, like I just like shit like that. So if me and you listen to the same song, right? It could be Drake, it could be Kendrick, it could be whatever. It could be new, it could be old. It depends how we're listening. Also depends if I'm drunk. Because like if I've, you know, had a couple drinks and I'm hanging out with my homies, I might listen to some ignorant ass shit because it's a vibe, right? So it's like these waveforms and these frequencies make us feel different ways. And regardless of what somebody's saying, if it's like, I've been chilling at the crib, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm chilling at the crib right now. Like it's a vibe, you know? But if me and you are sitting down to essentially dissect how we are interpreting a record, dude, I hear everything. I hear the hi-hats. I hear, oh man, that snare is a little too loud. It's a little too piercing. I hear the mastering, the mixing, the lyrics, the beat, the vibe as a whole, the cadence. I hear all this like simultaneously. It's kind of weird actually. But what a fantastic question. Now, I didn't used to listen to hip hop that way because I was just a fan of it, and then I started rapping. I think it's a big reason why I absolutely love indie and alternative music so much, because even though I myself have begun making that kind of music because it just makes me happy and it's super fun to do, I don't hear all that shit. Like I don't hear the lyric. Like I there's this Toro y Moi. Toro y Moi is an amazing artist, super cool. Musician. He's not afraid to try different things. He inspires me very much, and he's actually become a friend of mine. And when I listen to What For by him, which is one of my favorite albums, people might be like, oh man, it's anything returns the best. Whatever, I don't care. I like What For so much so that I asked him to give me a tattoo of it. I don't know if you can see it, but it's right there. And he wrote it out for me, which was really sweet. And then Mac DeMarco gave me this tattoo too. Wait, where is that? Is that Futurama? That's Fry. Anyway, what I'm saying is that when I listen to that, I just saw some of the lyrics for the first time on my Apple TV and was like, whoa, that's what he was saying this whole time, because I don't even really listen to it. I listen to how it makes me feel, and I get to just enjoy it. So there's that.
Yeah. All right, I want to open this up to some questions, but the person who gets to go first is the person who introduced me to your work, my friend Garrett from college. This is a photo of you two together, I think like 6 years ago, at one of the early shows. Garrett at our school was your number one fan, and used to just march around and say, everyone's got to listen to Logic.
I literally look like Voldemort. Shout out that guy.
Yeah, Under Pressure Tour 2015. I feel like a kid then. I've lost hair since then.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm in it with you, so I relate to that kind of stuff. But I think what's cool about what you just said is how you're learning a lot about how to listen to other kinds of music, and that's kind of adapted into how you've gone to alternative. The Supermarket, soundtrack was kind of a cool eye opener to what you're expanding into. And I think that's cool for you to say stuff like that, because the reason why I was so big about it and told all my friends about it, including Perell, was because you taught me how to listen to hip hop. So I think that's one of the coolest reasons why I get to be here right now and listen to you, is you listened or taught me how to listen and dissect certain parts of hip hop. And I know that you talked about that in the book, about how Kill Bill and the RZA kind of taught you how to dissect that kind of portion. So my next question for you is, with that music portion, what really inspired you to get into the writing aspect? Because I think that's the coolest thing about you, is how multifaceted you are. You've got the albums that are about your story, like Under Pressure, No Pressure. You've got the concept albums, the one you're working on now, Incredible True Story, Everybody Especially. And then you've got stuff that's just fun and for, like you said, the vibe. And so with that, what really inspired you to get into even like the storyline of The Incredible True Story and all of your albums, along with, just Supermarket in general, and then in your memoir and the screenplays, what's really gotten you into the other portions of art that you've really kind of dug yourself into?
Well, dude, first of all, thank you. And thank you for like legit being a fan. I just want to say, so I'm not on the internet. I mean, maybe you know this or not. Like, I used to be on the internet. And if you've read the book, you've actually know my experience with the internet. So this is amazing to be able to have conversations and answer questions from people who genuinely like enjoy my music. Like, thank you, man, because I don't get to do this anymore, you know? So I just want to say thank you. I think the reason let me just start with The Incredible True Story. So that was like when I broke in the game really officially with my first album, Under Pressure. Your sophomore album's a big deal because if you do well with your first album, but they call it the sophomore like flop or the curse, like you gotta do well. And I'd gotten hate, a lot for my first album, and it wasn't as good as my mixtapes and blah, 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 blah. And this dude's nerdy and he's corny and he's this and he's that. And I'm like, oh, okay. Me being myself is nerdy and corny. Well, I'm going to be myself to the like 10th degree. I'm going to do an entire album about space and space travel and like all this stuff. So that's where I was at with it. But it's also, in many ways, it's like a metaphor for, it's these two guys, Thomas and Kai, on a spaceship on their way to, a planet called Paradise because there's only 5 million human beings left on the Babel space station, and they're looking for a habitable planet. And while they're on that habitable planet, on the ride to the habitable planet that they hope is habitable. How many times am I going to say habitable? Goddamn. They're having a conversation. They're talking about hip hop. They're talking about oldies music. And one of the old records from 100 years ago, because it takes place in 2115, that they're putting on is Logic. And they're having, fun nerd conversations about Rubik's Cubes and all types of stuff. And I think for me, it allowed me to, like, I'm obsessed with film, so much so that now I've been working on films and TV and stuff, which is really just a dream, super fun. But back then, I just didn't even know. I was just like, I have this fire in me of wanting to do other things or incorporate other things that I haven't necessarily heard before in an album, or at least a mainstream popular album. How can I do that? So Paradise, these two guys going to Paradise for me was like me kind of creating my own world, my own planet. It was like, okay, if I'm not accepted in hip hop for whatever reason, then I'll create my own world. And nerds and like-minded people and people like me, you are welcome here. At the very end of The Incredible True Story, there's a quote by Alan Watts, who I love. And he says, anything you can be interested in, you will find others who are. And for me, creating that world has introduced me to amazing people like yourself and, people who care enough to be watching us right now live. And it's really special. And I think that was just it ignited the fire of then wanting to do more. And then with Supermarket, it's like, I'd never written a book, you know what I mean? And some people said it sucks. Other people said it's one of the best books they've ever read. Like, it's up to interpretation. For me, I didn't care about any of that. It doesn't matter that it's a #1 New York Times bestseller. All it comes down to is the fact that it helped me deal with my anxiety, my derealization, my depression, negative thoughts. Like, that's why I wrote it. I am the main character. Like, I just based it off myself. It made me happier. It made me feel better about myself. And then even doing like a soundtrack, which was indie music, that was met with like a lot of hate. I mean, we call it the loud minority. It's just like the first 50 comments on an Instagram or a YouTube page. Like, that's really all it is. Everybody else, it's crazy how you can see 1 million likes on your post, and then you could see like 1,000, maybe if that, haters, and be like, oh, I suck. Oh God, oh fuck. For me, I literally made that soundtrack because I was falling in love with my now wife and mother of my child. And I just wanted to write a love album for her and kind of make it seem as though it was about the main character and his love interest of my book. It's not that deep. I think I want to do other things because I don't want to be complacent. And guess what? I'm not great at everything. And that's what's fun. Trying, failing, messing up, not being the best, not this, not that. I am one of the best rappers. Like, I don't say that in an ego. Like, bro, I can rap circles around a lot of motherfuckers. You know what I mean? And I worked my whole life to get there. And now that I'm there and I can do it, I want other things that challenge me. And that's why I like to do other stuff.
Can you talk about, first of all, I really like that Alan Watts quote, about finding others. But there's this beautiful sort of series of chapters in the book where you have this like bliss where because of stuff that happened, you didn't want to leave your house and you're buying those AOL CD-ROMs. And all of a sudden you're learning about, Adobe Edit Pro. You're learning about all of these tools that you can use. And then you attract people like Chris who says, hey, I really like your work. Can you talk about your early days on the internet and some of the people who found you, who you attracted by putting your signal out in the world?
Yeah, it's funny because it's people I haven't seen or talked to in so long. A lot of them, like this one guy, Well Aware. There was this a battle rap site called Spoken versus Written. And when I was like 16, 17, I used to go on this website and just like type write. Like you just literally are type rapping against another person and then people upvote
Lord Subliminal, my friends.
Yeah, Lord Subliminal. That was my name. Cringe. Anyway, so there was this one guy's name was Well Aware, and he was a producer, and he's like, so you really rap like for real, like in the real world, like not on the internet? And I was like, yeah, I like to rap. And then he would send me beats, like even Six, one of my best friends who produces all my albums to this day. Like I first reached out to him on Twitter, and then I met him in person and gave him a business card. This is how old we're talking. This is 2011. I gave him a business card, and he threw that shit in the trash. Like I was like, oh man, this is crazy. But like that's a lifelong friendship. Yeah, Chris Zaru, my manager, and the creator of Visionary Music Group, the independent label that I was signed to before signing to Def Jam, and I'm still with Visionary, obviously. Like the internet, he hit me up on Facebook. I think he was like wearing like a toga at some like college party. So it was really weird. And it's also really funny because I'll never forget when he called me because he was like, oh, I want to manage you. And he's like, he's like this like muscular guy, and he calls me. He's like, "Hey, what's up, man?" And he's got this, I know, and he's got this high voice, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." But yeah, from management to producers to friends to fans, there's fans to this day that have made such an impact on me that I remember my first fans. Like it's amazing, and whenever we meet or see each other or talk, it's like reuniting with a family member that you hadn't seen in 10 years. It's great.
You were talking earlier about, I think that something that's got to be hard for you is like when there's a certain safety that you need in order to be creative. Steve Jobs has this great line where he talks about, like, so after Steve Jobs died, Johnny Ive, the design director at Apple, was speaking at his funeral. He said, more than anything else, Steve Jobs understood the fragility of ideas, that new ideas were like a young bird, and they couldn't be smashed. They needed to sort of be raised and cultivated. But I think what's hard is once you are under the spotlight, how do you maintain the creative safety to raise and cultivate young ideas when you can't go out and do Freestyle Friday anymore like you used to?
Just know there's a slight delay. So if it seems like I'm like taking hella long to answer, I'm just waiting. Yeah, man. Good questions. This is a vibe. I'm off the internet. That's the biggest thing. I'd seen people, because I've even talked about it in music. I've talked about everything in my music. I've talked about every aspect of my life in my music. And when I was young and on the come up, I was like super hungry. And I'll see people be like, oh, he's not as hungry as he was. Like rap isn't his everything anymore. You can tell. And it's like, yeah, it's not. My wife and my kid are. I do this for fun because I like it. Like, this isn't like I have to be better than, like, no, I did that. And I was so unhappy. It was not fun. It was not a good thing. And in many ways, I was making music kind of less from the heart because I was so much more focused on numbers and money and this and that years and years ago. And then after I, received some accolades and things like that, I feel as though I'd been set free. And now when I think about hate or negativity, it's just, I don't need it anymore. You know what I mean? So I would write about my come up, and then I would write about making it, and then I made it, and then I'm like, yo, I made it. And then after I'm writing about making it, I'm like, oh shit, you get really shitted on when you make it. So then I'm writing about that. Like, you know what I mean? Like in a cathartic manner, like, yo, like it don't matter how much money you got or you don't. We all still deal with money problems, money issues, or this or that. We all got family issues. Being famous is difficult. Like, you know, and then people are like, oh, shut up. Like, you can't take criticism. And it's like, there's a big difference between, you know, criticism and somebody being like, I hope your fucking baby dies. Your wife's ugly, you piece of shit. Like, dude, that's why I can't be on the internet. And I've noticed that not being on the internet has made me way more creative, because now I'm not like looking at I don't know, some TikTok challenge. I've never even been on TikTok. My manager made me one, but I don't use it. Anyway, like whether it's a TikTok challenge or it's a so-and-so or beef or drama or blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, it's crazy to think that anything I post on the internet, even if I'm like, hey, like have a good day, like I'll just get shitted on. And so it's not that I'm trying to escape it. It's not that I'm trying to ignore it by any means. It's just like I did it for 10 years and it made me extremely unhappy. So I think being away from that and just creating has actually made me more creative, because all I'm focusing, I'm not in my head now. I used to, my whole career, just until a few years ago, be like, all right, are people going to like this line or no? Is this going to be, okay, is this too much? And it's just like, dude, what are you doing? Like now when I create, I just create. I throw the drums on, I grab my guitar and I sing, hey, what if I said that I needed you? You don't got to overthink it, dude. Just have fun. And I think another thing too is the fact that there is no value in music anymore. So back in the day, you know, you'd go, you'd either get on the bus or have your parents take you to the music store and you take your allowance, or you're at your job if you're grown and you take that hard-earned money and you spend $20 to $25 on a CD by an artist that you obviously love and appreciate, and you open it and you put it in a CD player and you listen to it on the ride home and you listen to it in the shower and you listen to it with your friends and you listen to it here and there, you appreciate it, right? So even if and this has happened to me, especially when I was younger, like a new album drops and you're like, I don't really know that I like this. There's a big difference between that and nowadays, which is with a comment that's just like, yo, this suck ass, bruh. Like crazy, right? And it's like, this is supposed to be an artist that you love and revere, but yet we're talking down on them in some way, as though it should be like, no, you service me, bitch. Like this is, and it's like, whoa. But what I'm saying is if you're going to spend $25 on something, you're not going to go, this suck ass. You're going to be like, okay, it's not necessarily my favorite, but you're not going to then just throw it in the trash or break it. You're probably going to listen to it again and catch something you didn't before. And I think we used to focus on what we liked about things, even if it wasn't necessarily our favorite. That's what we would focus on. Like, wow, I really like the way his voice or her voice is on this record. I'm not really a fan of the production, but it's kind of cool. And then you can maybe slowly start to fall in love with this thing. Nowadays, people who hate you and do not like you, and I'm not talking about myself, I'm talking about all artists and specifically musicians, will go listen to your album just to shit on you, to be in the conversation on Twitter. Those people would have never spent $25 on your CD before. So what it does is it opens up an entire world of both love and also hate, which can be very difficult to navigate when there is no value in the music that we create anymore. And that, I think, is a difficult thing to deal with. It's like a club. It's like a club, and this is the Rat Pack or the Logic Club, and people who like Logic. They might not like every song. They might not like, but they can appreciate that I'm trying different things and I'm doing it. And I'm always going to circle back to whatever, whether it's you like the super raw raps, cool. You like the indie stuff that's weird and different, cool. You like the trap shit, cool. You like this. But I've always been that, right? So I'm always going to try and do different things. And if you like Logic, then you know that, you know what I mean? But then you'll have people hating on that, and it can be a difficult thing to deal with. My least favorite part of music is releasing it. I love everything except releasing it. I love creating it, writing it, making it with my friends. I love sitting in the corner when like my wife or somebody's like listening to like one of the songs and I'm like looking at them. That's my favorite part. I'm like, oh, and if they're like, whew, I'm like, oh shit, yeah. And then you release it and it's just it's a difficult thing.
I mean, one of the things that I kind of hear you saying is what this sort of world of just total abundant information has, where things become free, does is it amplifies the voices of people with instant reaction. So you make art for the instant reaction. One thing for me, when the first time I watched Lord of the Rings, I didn't like it. I watched all 3 movies and I was like, what is everybody talking about? And I was in Morocco, and I don't know what it was, but throughout that entire trip, I had these visions of the story coming back to me. It had like soaked into my soul. And then in reflecting on the trilogy of movies, then I began to fall in love with it. And it was like the shape of appreciation was an instant. It took time to cook. It was like a stew, you know?
I agree. I always said, what is it? Your new shit isn't as good as your old shit till your old shit is your new shit, or your new shit's your old shit. Whatever. You get what
Searching
I'm
for love in the industry, you'll be let down. They don't love you till you dead, then they call you profound.
Profound. Wow. That's one of my favorite raps. What is that? Is that Soul Food too? I think so.
Yes.
Yeah, that was thank you so much, man. Yeah, that's a crazy one, like to think about. It's very, like, you got to understand. I remember being in the basement broke and like dropping these mixtapes for fans for free, and then you drop your album and people are like, this isn't as good, this sucks, it's not as good as his mixtapes. But when my mixtapes were out, everyone said that sucked. And then my second album comes out and it's not as good as the first, and the third is not as good. So I've just noticed that, and now I'm just at a place where I'm like, oh yes, hate this now. Like, I'm just like, here you go, I already know like how it's going to be. But the biggest part is knowing why I make the music. I make the music for me and my friends and anybody out there who likes it. It's that simple. Like, you know what I mean? It's weird because I'm literally looking at this room full of plaques, and it's like kind of, I don't even know how this happened, and I couldn't be happier, and I'm just going to keep being me, because being me has been working. So be yourself, just love yourself, be kind to yourself. Like, that's what my therapist tells me. When we first started, I've had a therapist for a long time, but this chick that I'm with now, she's the bomb. And 3 years ago, she was like, you need to be nicer to yourself. And I'm like, what do you mean? And because I would just say things like, okay, I got this idea, it's kind of whack, but like, and then she was like, why do you say that? And I realized, because that's what the internet does. That's what people do. You almost like want to set yourself up where it's like you underplay something that you might really, so shit idea, but if you really thought the idea was that bad, why even bring it up in the first place? And so when I've started to realize that, like, dude, own it, be you, live your truth. Like, it is what it is.
Cam, I know you got a question.
Logic, thanks for being here. Thanks for making 1995 with Juicy J. That song goes hard. So you've been on all the big freestyle shows, Sway and Power 106 and all those, and you actually freestyled on those. I'm sure you practiced a lot. What's the non-obvious stuff you did to get amazing at that, to freestyle off the top?
Wow, you look very comfortable. I would have to say, yeah, I don't think this is necessarily obvious, but I would have to say studying the thesaurus and the dictionary like a madman, like constantly. Because I don't even necessarily, I wouldn't say I'm the best freestyle. I mean, well, okay, let me just say this. Freestyles nowadays, it's like everything's basically written. And we as artists will like for sure freestyle, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just one of those things where you want to be have like spontaneity for sure, but then you might kind of throw in a couple bars that are just so dope, just so you kind of flex and show off for a second, but then you bring it back. And for me, I think cadence, timing, and just, yeah, like definitely the thesaurus, like For sure. That's how we go. I got to glow. You already know. Yo, bro, check it. This is how we go. I can't fuck with a hoe. Like, I know that seems dumb, but I'm saying if you have those words already in your head, then if you have those words already in your head, it's easy enough said. This is how we do it. I'm trying to get this bread. It ain't just for the money, but it's funny. Can you see? This is how we do it now. It's the LOGIC. Kicking is free off the TOP, the top of the dome. This is how we get it. I'm sending any of these cats home. Chromosomes, I murk them, desert them, and then I bring them back. This is how we do it. I don't know. Here's a joke about being half black. There it is. So it's like when you I think the thesaurus and the dictionary were probably the biggest plays into being able to freestyle.
I wasn't going to ask you to freestyle, and you did it for us, so you just made all of our day. Thank you.
That was awesome. How about like notes? Like, is notes something that you're bringing up? I know that early on you have a line in the book where you're talking about going to, what was it, your dad's friend's studio. You described it as a studio, but it was actually like an attic that these people, just sort of rented.
It was a storage facility.
It was a storage facility. But you have a line where you're like, yeah, I would just rap for 15 minutes because I would look at my notebook and you were writing these notes on the bus. Are notes still part of your creative process? Or
Can you grab those books over there, please? I will answer this question for you. So for 15 years, I didn't write anything on pen and paper. Oh shit! And this is just within the last 2 years here. So these are all the stuff that I got. This is actually the Envisage Smith Corona. So this is either a novel or a film I'll be writing. This is one of my rap books. This is Bobby's Beats. So these are like samples and things that I really love. This is a Louis Vuitton rhyme book that my wife got me, and I was just like, yo, this is tight. She got me this for Christmas. I thought that was very swag. This is Grandmaster. This is a notebook that I have a bunch of stuff in, and I thought about maybe doing an album called Grandmaster one day. Jizza already did it. It's called Grandmasters, and it's about chess. That could be fun. This right here is a rhyme book for an album called Ultra 85, which is like this.
We know about Ultra 85. That's completing the story.
You know about that. Exactly. So we're getting there. And then you have what really started all that again, which is this. My buddy Christian, we call him Surf Star, gave me this journal, and this literally has all of...
Can you show us one page? I don't want to like be like too much. Show us. But I would love to see one page and just like, I want to see like, what does it look like when you're thinking on paper, thinking visually?
It looks like shit. It looks like shit. Oh my God, this is really bad. All right, let me see here. Oh God. Okay. I don't know if you can see it, but that's what it looks like. It looks like a fucking notebook from Seven. Have you ever seen that?
So what are you doing here? So like, why is the colors different? Why do you got boxes around stuff? What's going on?
I don't know. What is this? Backwards like Tariq from Undone. And now I wonder how I got over, son. Yeah, and I checked the method. I've been living outside the pages. Okay, holy shit. This is quite serendipitous. Listen to this line right here. I've been living outside the pages for ages, now I'm back. Literally, that's what we're talking about. And when I say I've been living outside the pages, what that means for me is I've been writing on my phone forever. I've been outside the pages of a book, and now I'm back. Now I'm here making every single word count. And for me, with No Pressure, it was the first time I like put so much into like sounding hungry and like all this stuff where they talk about old Logic. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this now, because I didn't want to do it for a long time. I did The Incredible True Story, and that was like some hungry raps. And then after that, I did Everybody, and that was more conceptual, fun, extremely musical, very music. I was like focused on production and, all that, and more message, direct message, right? And then after that, I was like, oh shit, I'm on top of the world. So I dropped Bobby Tarantino 2, which was just some trap shit. And that was fun. It was fun. It was dope raps too, but it was fun. Young Sinatra 4 to me, though, that was some hip hop. But that was like what I do, respectfully, I'm not trying to sound no type of way. It's like what I do in my sleep. Like, I'm just like, yo, I'm just writing bars. I'm having fun. Like, and they're dope, but it's like not that crazy. And then after that, I did Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, which I really love that album. It was hated on a lot when it first came out, but now it's my most popular album that's ever been out, which is really funny to think about. And that one focused a lot on social media and what I was personally just going through, right? So it's not that deep. After that, a lot of people were like, oh, Logic fell off. He fell off. I'm like, how you fall off with a #1 album? But okay. So I'm like, all right, he fell off. And I just saw that a lot of fans were like, man, well, not a lot. The loud minority of like people on the internet were just like, I want him to rap. And I didn't want to do that. And then I did. And then I wanted to. And I think that's the difference. It's like, if I just did Under Pressure, The Incredible True Story, No Pressure, it's just doing the same thing again and again and again. I don't want to do the same thing. I don't want to play it safe and easy and just make a bunch of money. I want to do things that excite me and make me scared and happy and all. That's what art is, right? So when I did No Pressure, I was like, I'm ready. I want to rap like I'm back in the basement again. But I'm not. I want to rap in a way that feels like it is from before, and yet everything I'm talking about and the passion and emotion is from the present. Records like Dad Bod, Growing Pains 4, the intro, all that stuff. So that was this. I mean, every little line. It's so cool to look at this actually. Every line, or rather, in 2005. Oh, fluently. Let's see what else we got. Oh yeah, goddamn conversations with people. Crazy how one day the legends forget that they're equal. So that was a breakdown from Soul Food 1. So this is Soul Food 2. And Soul Food 1 is goddamn conversations with legends. Crazy how one day your idols become your brethren. And that was on my first album. So, 7-8 years later, here I find myself conversations with people. Crazy how one day the legends forget that they're equal. It's just like, yeah, back in the day, I was this wide-eyed kid, like, oh my God, I'm in the studio with no ID and J. Cole and blah, blah, blah. And then you get, not to sound the type of way, you get famous and you get a bunch of money and you realize, like, these people ain't shit. I ain't shit. I'm just a person. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that deep. So that's that. We're not taking it back. We keep it pushing. Most people scared of change, but you'll find me deep in the cushion. Love that line. Like, you just find change in the cushion. Very simple. Even when I win, I feel like I'm losing, which is crazy. I think that's like a play on, I drop a certain album and people, mind you, I don't want it to sound like I'm like full of, like I'm upset. Like, I'm blessed. I know I am loved, and that's amazing. I just, it's criticism and these things just so happen to come up, especially when you're being honest and vulnerable. I think a lot of artists are like, yeah, no, everybody loves me. My shit's amazing. And da-da-da-da. So just know, it's not like I'm over here like torn and hurt or anything, but I think it's good to discuss those things. So even when I win, I feel like I'm losing. Even when I drop a #1 album, but, people could talk trash about it, it's like, damn, that's really hard. Listening to beats in the Beamer cruising, I think I got another hit. I can feel my body bruising. That's just like a hit, and then you're punched. What's the conclusion, or rather, what's my hypothesis? I'm darker than Gotham is. Like reading Nostradamus. Ooh, this is one of my favorite.
Tell us.
This is one of my favorite bars I've ever written in my life. Ooh, sorry. Okay. Like reading Nostradamus at 90 degrees, you better believe I know how to turn a profit with ease. So it's basically, Nostradamus was known for prophesizing future events and XYZ, right? So if this book is a book on Nostradamus or his writings, and I turn it 90 degrees, I'm turning a profit. But that's a play on turning a profit, like making money. So I'm like, you better believe I know how to turn a profit with ease. I love that one. Oh man, I wrote this in a fucking airport. Diacritical lifestyle. I'm always overseas. Do you know what a diacritical character is?
I don't.
So you can't see it here, but like français or hola, like the little squiggly line, that's called a diacritical character. So I'm saying I have a diacritical lifestyle. I'm always overseas. So basically saying like I'm overseas seeing the world, but I'm the squiggly line over a sea in, other languages.
Okay, so here's what's coming to mind for me. Like, would you, as an artist, would you be like, hey, David, I think that you should try to sort of pick up on these things by just listening over and over again? Or are you somebody who's like, you know what, let's take genius, let's turn it up to 100, and then maybe you want the whole internet saying, well, I mean, I'm talking about the good internet. Let's be, just the people be supportive. Would you want them to sort of break this stuff down? Because I've listened to this music and I didn't realize half of that stuff.
That's what's so cool about it, though. I also think that's where the love and the hate comes from. It's like some people just love it. Other people don't get it. Like, dude, you didn't get Lord of the Rings. I still don't. I like Star Wars. But anyway, so that's the beauty of it. I've been listening to Midnight Marauders by Tribe Called Quest forever. It's been out for like almost 30 years. And there's stuff I catch. I listen to Wu-Tang forever, and I'm listening to that, or Only Built for Cuban Links by Raekwon, or Black on Both Sides by Mos Def, or How I Got Over, which came out in 2010 by The Roots. And I'm like, what? Like, I've heard this a million times, and I just now, like my mind is blown. I like it. I like that we as artists put so much into our art and hope that it will be discovered sometime later. There's another line that I have. It's more. Oh man, sorry. There's another line that I have. Is this? Are we doing this too much right now?
Let's do one more. This is great, man.
Okay, one more. Last one. Where is it? I don't know. I know it by heart. Money ain't the key to happiness, and that's the truth, or whatever. And then it goes, I'm feeling close to the cliff like Rick Dalton in the booth. That's it. And so I'm obsessed with Tarantino. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood stars Leonardo DiCaprio as not Cliff Booth, but Rick Dalton, and Brad Pitt as Cliff Booth. I didn't see the movie because it wasn't out yet. I just read the synopsis on IMDb a year before it was released, and it says, a tale about Rick Dalton and his stunt double Cliff Booth. I didn't know who played who. I didn't know this, that. I just know that I'm obsessed with Tarantino, and I wanted to be the first one to write this punchline in the world. And then I thought, like, okay, Cliff Booth, Rick Dalton, what can I do there? And then I was like, oh, okay. I'm feeling close to the cliff, like I'm on the edge. I'm feeling close to the cliff, like Rick Dalton in the booth, like the recording booth. And it's just little things like that I absolutely love. And, you know, some people could think that's slight, but for me, that's everything. And it makes all this so worthwhile.
Man. That was epic. That was just epic. I feel like, you know, like when you're at a show, it's like the song's over and then everyone just needs time to chill. I feel like that was one of those moments. Will, you got any questions?
Yeah, we had a couple questions about how you were using conversation to generate ideas for your music, and did that translate over to other things you've written? You know, your books, your screenplays. Like, how's the writing change, and how does it stay the same when you're changing mediums?
Wow, what a great question. I think it all comes from the same place where I'm genuinely excited, you know, about what I'm doing, but it's more like outline and plot. So when I did Supermarket, I was like, okay, how can I, you know, make the audience think one thing, but it's really another thing? Or how can I this or that? So that's more so what it is. How can I make a really cool ending that you might not expect? Or if you do, you still don't know what happens afterwards or that. So I think it's different in the sense of there's not really punchlines. It's more like events are the punchlines. There's a punchline here or there if you're making like a funny joke, or if one of the characters is coming on to the other one and trying to, like, you know, say something smooth. That could be fun. But for the most part, yeah, it's really just about having fun with the writing. I think even writing the memoir, because you have people's attention, right? And they care enough to actually read this book, you know that you have a lot longer to build the world. They care enough to sit down and read. I think with music, it's like people want to just, like, right away. It's like, do I like this song? It's 10 seconds. I don't know if I like that. Like, you know, so it's a little, it's different that way. Yeah.
Well, Logic, this has been just an hour I'll never forget, man.
That's it? I can't talk to no more fans and hear questions?
You want to keep going?
Yeah, this is tight.
Hell yeah. Okay. I just want to be respectful of your time. We're going to keep going. Mitchell, what's up, man?
Here we go. Let's do it.
First off, Bobby, I don't know if you've been seeing the comments, but myself and everyone has just been loving this. Amazing. So thank you so much for the time. Wanted to ask, so I was listening to when you were talking to Tom Bilyeu on impact theory. and you're kind of talking about your progression and always kind of being like the next thing, from rapping to writing a book to acting. And I think you were talking about the Apple TV series, and
Yeah.
you were talking about specifically being like obsessed with it, even like practicing your lines when your wife was in labor. And you had this moment that really stood out to me where you're talking about you were able to slow down time. Can you talk about that, or how you did that, or how you look at that, like always wanting more, but really realizing that it's like journey, not destination?
Oh, it's so funny that you just use that too, because I have this line in my next album where I go, "It's about the journey, not the destination." Not to sound like a mom shopping at Erewhon, which is Erewhon's this like really bougie store in Calabasas. And then it goes, "Let's bring it back to square one." I'm feeling something, and then I'm like, sorry, I know I'm going into raps right now, but y'all got me excited. And then what did I say? I say, I stay with the Iron Man like John Favreau, killing shit, Avada Kedavra. And John Favreau helped create Iron Man, the movie. Anyway, back in the basement, I was so focused on what's next. I was so focused on, okay, I want to be able to play a show for, 100 people, and then it's 500 people, and then it's okay, I want it to be 1,000 people, and then I want to sell out Madison Square Garden, and then you sell out Madison Square Garden, and you're like, holy shit, I didn't appreciate any of that. And you do. Like I did. Like, I remember certain shows being in Chicago at the Aragon Theater and things like that. Like you remember, but not like you should. And there's just so many things, so many people I met, so many idols I shook hands with, so many idols I made songs with, went on tour with, did all these things. But I was so focused on the future. I think the fact that I, at 29, 30 years old, realized that while transitioning into acting as well, I'll always make music, I love it. But while transitioning into acting, I just had this moment when I was on set with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who's like my man crush. And like, I've always been obsessed with this guy and loved his movies. And then I don't know how the hell we're like best friends. Like that's my dog. That's my homie. He's one of the nicest guys. And I'm across from him, like rehearsing a scene we're about to do. And we're on all this makeup and all this shit. And I was like, oh my God, dude, like you're here. You're with the guy from Inception. No, I'm just kidding. And I was like, this is it. This is it. Because I remember earlier that day being like, okay, this is tight, but like I want to do another show and I want to do a movie and I want to this. And I just caught myself. So I can only say that for me, it was being able to have already done it and made the mistake of not being present and caring enough to now be present, especially as time's going a lot faster because I'm getting older and I got a baby, and it's just really insane. So to anybody out there who is at the beginning of whatever they want to do, just like remember, like being hungry is kind of dope. And I mean that like literally, like being hungry is cool because you have to grind to be able to afford a meal. And that meal tastes so much better than if it had just been prepared for you, even if you really want it to be prepared. So there it is.
Can we try something real quick?
Yeah.
Lucas Trujillo, one of my fraternity brothers, he's been grinding for the last 5 years. Lucas, what question, because you're in that flow right now, what question do you want to ask Logic? Sort of see sort of what comes out of this.
I don't hear anybody.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Logic, man. So walk me through.
Damn, where you at? You look like you're in like a science laboratory. Look at all those bottles back there. God damn. You look like Rick Sanchez like shit. Okay. What were you gonna say?
My day job is working at a whiskey distillery. So I got a bunch of bottles behind me. But hey, walk me through. So Logic is making music, right? He's in the studio. He's going in weekly. Walk me through just you sit down, the creative process. Do you make the beats? Do you scratch vocal over like trying to figure out melodies? What is your creative process workflow in the studio, and how does that translate to the bigger picture?
It's funny because I remember when I first signed my deal in 2012 and I went to LA and I was with No ID. And those of you who may not know, No ID has produced Jay-Z. He's Kanye West's mentor, all that. Taught him how to make beats, like crazy stuff. And I remember being in there and in the studio with him, and he played me 808 and Heartbreaks, the sessions, like the demo ideas. And you just hear Kanye, and he's like, like I wanted to. Okay, wait, run it back. You hear him, and the beat's going boom, 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 and he's just like, but he's like fucking it up, like he's like, I'm not loving you. I'm not loving you way I wanted to. And you can see it happen. And for me, up until that point, I was like, no, you just got to write everything. You have to write it. You have to write it. You have to write it. And that changed a lot for me because it was like, no, you don't. Like, just have fun. I think a big part of artists, what's the word? An artist's hill that they have to climb over is really themselves. You know, they're like, I'm telling, this has got to be the best. This got to be this way. Like, no, man. Like, I think if you just vibe and have fun and let things come to you naturally, that's the best way to go about it. So I think there's been a natural evolution with myself. And sometimes I'm like, yo, I want to write. Like, I want to write bars or whatever the case may be. And then there's other times where it's like, I don't. I used to be in the studio. I used to kick myself, man. Like, I'd be in the studio every day, 12 hours a day minimum, and be like, I have to make at least five ideas and two keeper. And it's got to be, and it's just how it has to. And it's like, dude, I remember the first time I went like a week without being in the studio recording for 10 years. I'm like 25. And I was scared I would forget. Like, I was scared I would forget how to like rap. Like, it's so crazy. And what I realized is you actually need time away. Like, that's okay. Like, you know, hey, when it comes to writing, write. Writers write. You know, producers produce. Guitar players play. Business people study business. Like, do it. But like, also, like, watch a fucking TV show. You know, get outside. Go smell a tree or something. You know. And once I realized that, I was even more, I think, creative and happy.
Hey, Logic, quick question over here. First of all, my buddy in high school found you 2011. This song is sick. So it's cool to be doing this 10 years later. Kind of surreal, Mind of Logic. Wow. I mentioned that. But yeah, I'm curious. You're just going through all these notebooks, you know, all these different ideas that you're writing down. You know, we're all writers here on this call. We'll think of ideas. Sometimes I'll think of something. Oh, I should tweet that. I should do a little piece about that. And there's some stuff that's like, oh, that's really clever, or maybe this is just kind of dumb. Like, do you have a rule of thumb in your mind when you think of something, like a minimum bar or like a threshold where you sort of know this is a clever idea, I'm pushing it, or this is just stupid and you can't make a cut? Like, how do you judge what's clever and what's just sort of dumb?
I forget. What a great question. I've written some bad shit. Most of it's not out, though. That's the thing. It's like, because I've got thousands of songs, and you know, nobody saw Michael Jordan missing all those shots in the gym. You know, we saw him like game day, game 6, like doing his thing. It's funny that I know that. I don't even like sports, but anyway, whatever. I'm trying to think because I feel like I wrote a really cheesy bar recently, and they come to you. Let me look at lines. Is it under lines 2019 or is it God lines? I have so many lines that I do. Oh, okay. This was the one where I wasn't sure how to do it. They say I won't, but I will. Now that's a dead giveaway. So for me, I just thought that's cool because it's like, I will do this. It's a dead giveaway that I'll do this. Like, whatever that means. Like, I don't know. It could be like, yeah, they say I wouldn't have made it or whatever. I don't know that I'd like that, you know, but maybe there's another way that I could rework it and figure it out. But that's okay. Like, not everybody makes dope shit all the time, constantly. Like, that's the big thing. Like, I've written songs and I'm like, yo, this song is dope. But like, I don't know why I don't love it. And then I just go, you know, because you got to go back in and rewrite something, and that's fine. I think sometimes I'm also like, oh man, I feel like lazy. Like, I actually don't want to do it. Like, it's like I want to make this song, so I kind of rush it. right? And then I'll listen back and be like, oh, damn, I got to go back and like do this. And it feels like a chore. And if it feels like a chore, I need to go have a scotch and kiss my baby and just relax and watch Dark Knight or something. And then want to be excited about it. You should want to be excited about what you're doing. And if you are in a place where you kind of dread it, take a break. And if you still dread it in an hour, a day, a week, a month, well, you got to get over that shit and you got to force yourself to do it. So if you're a writer, write. And if you think it's bad, so what? Just do it.
Love it. Thanks.
All right. Tons of questions tons of people with their hands raised. I'm going to call on you guys. Just please keep them quick. We're here to hear from Logic. Michael, you first.
Quick question. I wonder what's your ratio between like all the ideas you've recorded and the stuff that you've released? Is it like 1 to 3 or is it like 1 to 100? And I think this could help a lot of writers.
It's like 1 to 1,000, bro.
1 to
without question. It's what were we gonna say? Please.
It's like your bar for quality is so much higher than the rate that you can produce. You still produce a lot and you still nourish them, but it's like, it's really special when it hits that like, oh, this is the best thing I can make.
Yeah, or at least the best thing I feel that I can make. I think it's really funny because I've met with producers who they're like, here's my newest shit, and it's like 8 beats, and I'm like, no, give me everything you've ever done, because what you think might not be cool 4 years ago, I could absolutely love, and we make a hit record or a banger or something. But I think the same can also be said about myself. Throughout my professional career, being signed to a major label, I've recorded so much stuff that I'm actually excited to go back 10 years later and go, okay, what was dope and what can I kind of, bring back? So thank you for that.
Garrett.
Yeah, that kind of leads into my question. Really with that, obviously you've talked about how some people are like, oh, I want the old Logic back. I want the old Logic.
Wait, I just want to say one thing. I think it's Eviana has had their hand up for a long time. So make sure we get to them and Jesse and Corey. Okay, what were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying that you talk a lot, people want the old Logic back and they don't realize that some of the songs were written years ago. And it is actually, the same guy. So really with that, my question is what's the farthest you've gone back to like maybe write a song, maybe forgot about it and then brought it back up and was like, oh, this is dope. I need to release this.
What a great question. The farthest I've gone back was 14 years. Even more than that. One of my first raps that I ever did doesn't really make sense. And I did it because I was trying to work on syllables. And it goes, I'm ripping and living and striving. The Killer the Ripper. I was calling myself it's like Jack the Ripper, but I was like Killer the Ripper because I was going by East Coast Killer with a K, which is really embarrassing. Killer the Ripper, he's calling what goes when he flows. And he's pursuing it, doing it, moving it, grooving it. And it goes, I'm ripping and living and striving to kill the Ripper, calling what go when he flowing. He pursuing it, doing it, moving it, grooving it, stopping it, rocking it, talking it, walking it, flipping it, ripping it, motherfucking it, scripting it, I'm ready to go. When I buy it, then break it, roll it, then lick it, then smoke it, choke on it later, which I'm then talking about weed. Now, it's just not, there is no substance in there. I'm not really saying much, quite honestly. But I was a 14, 15-year-old kid who was more focused on how to make everything come out correctly. Fuck rap, busting like an addict with a semi-automatic, couldn't had it any ready for anybody to buck back. Hold on, catch a vibe, ain't no way how, or get down and lay down, hit you with the Beretta, get better, stay down, straight shots on the playground, living how I'm living with the life that I'm giving. Anybody just riding with me, I'm riding with them. Show me the enemy and I'm gonna hit him the second I get on my bit, I'm gonna hit him with the venom. So it's about, I was just focused on practicing. So with that being said, I had a record on Young Sinatra 4 called 100 Miles and Running. And I took that and I put it at the end, and I was kind of lit on tequila in the back of the studio bus on tour. And you can hear me. I'm like, I'm going to show y'all my syllability right now. I call it my syllability. I'm ripping and living and striving. And it's a vibe. It's Bruno Mars. It's James Brown. It's like you hear it and it's just about entertaining. And then you have people who could try to rip it apart. Oh, he's not even saying anything. Doesn't even make sense. Blah, 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 blah. Well, it's good enough to be in like Fast and Furious and the new Free Guy movie and making me money. And so people must love it and enjoy it. So yeah, I'd say about 14 years it's gone back.
Over to our resident musician, Eviana.
Yo, what's up, Bobby? It's Evie. I'm such a huge fan, fucking merch and everything. Your book really resonated with me, especially when you talked about your kind of parents and the lack of a relationship that you had with them. And so you had to kind of create your own community, your own tribe, your own people that, you know, you really fuck with like that. And for me, I'm just kind of starting off as well. I moved up to the Pacific Northwest trying to start stuff and really investing in myself. So I'm curious to know who are the mentors that really pushed you, you know, besides from like Mary Jo, but the people who like really inspired you to make your dreams real, to want to do not only music, but films and writing, because that's exactly the same trajectory. And are there people or like mentors that you have that you're kind of passing your knowledge on and stuff? And if you do have mentors, are you taking open applications?
Oh, mentees. Yeah, you know, actually, I think that could be pretty cool. I'm a very, very, very busy man, but you know what? Let's try to make that work. Also, I see that you got some merch there. So, can you somehow get my assistant in touch with Eviana and I'll send you some merch and I'll sign a bunch of shit. I got so much shit here. I'm going to send you a bunch of shit. I'm going to sign a bunch of shit for you. And then at some point, I think we'll try to situate just a call where we could jump on a call for like 10, 15 minutes and I'll give you some.
Don't care about the merch at all. I'm here to support you. For me, it's
Thank
just
you.
the knowledge, like all the stuff that you learn and passing it on, because when you're coming from a place that like you don't have that family support, when you're the only person that's trying to do the shit that you're trying to do and spread the positivity and love with everybody and share it, like that shit can get very lonely, just as you mentioned in your story. And like, I want to contribute to that. I want to contribute to like helping, you know, bring positivity and spread love through music and show that there's so much out there that we could do if we really just got together and like help each other out, you know.
Dude, you literally make sure she gets free tickets to every concert forever, dog. Like, you got to make sure. I'm talking to my assistant JT. No, we're gonna hook you up, girl. Like, this is tight. This is a vibe. Listen. So let me answer your question before I send you a fuck ton of merch and tickets forever and you know, a phone call in a couple weeks when I'm free and all that stuff, because you seem like a really great person. There's a couple of people in my life, but it's weird. I don't really have a lot of mentor. I just don't really have anybody. No ID is dope. We have conversations, but it's not even like we're talking like all the time. You know, it'll be once in a while or when we work on music. I think I get most of my insight because I'm just dope. No, I'm just kidding. From my friends, I really believe that, because if I have an issue or a problem, you know, even if like me and my wife have a tiff, like I'll go to different friends and go, what do you think? Like blah, 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 XYZ. And to get different perspectives, men, women, everybody in between, gay, straight, like everyone has how they feel and their view on things. So I kind of like, I love going to the people in my circle and just getting various points of view, which I think is great. So thank you for that question. I do look forward to speaking whenever we can set up like 10, 15 minutes and then, get ready for a bunch of merch and shit. Swag. Okay.
I'm unable to speak right now. So that was incredible. Jesse.
Well, this is amazing. Thank you so much for being here and talking to us. My daughter, Alexis, who's actually been watching from afar, she's a huge fan and inspiring rapper. So she'd love some merch too. I'll throw that out there. But she asked me to ask this, and I think it's really relevant. You put yourself out there with your amazing music, which makes you vulnerable. How do you reinvest the critical feedback you receive, overcome the vulnerability, and do it without letting it get to you?
What's her name? Wow, beautiful name. Hello. It always gets to me. I'm a human being. When people say they don't like me, or they call my baby names, or say my music sucks, or that I'm whack and I don't belong, of course it gets to me, even now. And I feel very secure with myself. I do. More secure than yesterday, than 2 years ago. But mean things hurt, man. Like, you know, that it hurts. And what I do is I take that pain and I write about it. I don't whine about it. I don't cry about it. I just write about it. I say, this is how this makes me feel. And then I use that as an opportunity and a device to then say, hey, anybody else out there feeling this way? Just know that I know how you feel, and I'm here for you right now in this record. So I would just say, do what all great artists do. Take your pain, your pleasure, all the feelings of insecurity, and being true to yourself and happy with who you are. All those things, mix them up and put them on the page. And I think you can do it because you look like a dope rapper from here for sure.
Thank you so much. He's kind of losing it.
Swag.
Go, Ari.
Hey man, what's up? First off, I liked your shit before, but now that I got to know you and see that you're a real motherfucker, like you got a fan for life, right?
Thank you.
First off, my question though, man, is a lot of especially like fiction authors, they tend to have one thing in common, which is they play D&D, right? And on your Everybody album, you had some Critical Role people on that and shit. And man, since I moved, I haven't been able to play. I haven't found a table yet, so I miss it. My question is, why do you think D&D specifically attracts so many creatives, and how does it influence your own creative process?
That's a good question. I think it just attracts creatives because if you play D&D, you're a fucking nerd. And if you're a nerd, you're creative. It's funny because I always wanted to play, and then I played with a couple friends of mine who are actors, actresses, voice actors and such. And it was really great. My character's name was Gelvin the Magnificent. He was gay and he loved to gamble. And he spoke like this. And every time I would go to hither and thither, I would come and say, is there a gambling establishment around? Also, that guy has really nice pecs. I just thought it would be funny. Anyway, yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, the same could be said about Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or this or that. I mean, there is a culture. And I think, people who love anime, I mean, who didn't watch like Dragon Ball growing up and try to draw Goku at least once? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just it's kind of who we are. And being here and talking to all of you, like, makes me realize, damn, I miss like interacting and talking to fans and hanging out. Like, we need to figure out a way to do this. Like, we'd be sick. Sorry, I'm not even answering your fucking question right now. Doing a tour, right? That really, I don't know if fans would be bummed by this though, where it's not really, I don't perform, but we go to like theaters and do this and like talk to fans and meet fans and do Q&As and be on the stage, and there's a moderator like David. And I mean, could you imagine being on a tour bus and getting to meet fans and sign shit and like just talk a night with Logic? That's tight. Anyway, yeah, cause y'all are nerds. That's why we're creative. There you go. Damn, we got to fucking do that.
Yeah, on Monday, we're going to be talking, sort of riffing off this quote, which is exactly what we're talking about. I've always loved this. It's the weird that's truly normal. It's how people actually are and what people actually care about. And I feel like what we're here to do in Rite of Passage, speaking to the students now, is to take that weird that we've always suppressed, that we've always been embarrassed by, and to get to a place where we put our ideas online, and then we attract other people who affirm that weirdness and make us realize this is what makes us unique. This is what makes us lucky to be alive. And that then drives our art.
I mean, drops mic. I can't say anything. You snapped. Yeah, you killed it. Literally. Like, I love how quiet it is right now. Like, I don't even know what I could say to that. Like, you just did it. I think you're right. Good job. Thumbs up. Swag.